Well, if you're an early riser, you have to not realize, but also love the fact that curlers are early risers as well. And joining me is Marketing Director of the Manitoba Junior Curling Tour, the ASHAM MJCT. Kevin Young joins me. Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for taking the time this morning. Really appreciate catching up with you and what's going on in the junior curling world. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Theo. Pleasure to be here.
So last weekend we had a tournament in Swan River or Swan Valley. I forget. I always get those mixed up.
Swan River, actually.
Swan River, and it was another MJCT event. What were some of the results we had from that past weekend, Kevin?
So it was a junior men's event only in Swan River. There were not enough, unfortunately, junior women's teams able to go. There's quite a cost associated with traveling. It's 5.5 hours northwest. So, but we did have a junior men's event. The folks in Swan River did an absolute amazing event. They're wonderful hosts. We had Team Johnson and Team Williamson, Team Davidson were in Pool A, and Team Freeman, Team Skog, and Team Gawriliuk in Pool B. Team Johnson went, my team went 3-0. Team Freeman went 3-0. And by virtue of the draw to the button, Freeman out curled us by 4 inches, and they went to the final. We played off against another team, which we won, and we met Freeman in the final. We went to an extra end. Team Johnson had a shot to win it, and unfortunately missed the tap by about an inch. So you know what? Close ones hurt, but all in all, it was a great weekend, and we enjoyed ourselves for sure.
You mentioned the cost of these events for the teams and the players themselves. A huge shout out to all the sponsors that help out these young junior curlers, because we think of curling as just being at the local club and hanging out with friends and the Saturday, Sunday mornings, but this is a pretty impressive curling tour, obviously sponsored by ASHAM, but all the other sponsors for the individual teams as well.
Yeah. In addition, Theo, to working with MJCT, I am the coach at Team Johnson, and we have 21 sponsors
For one team.
For one team.
Wow.
And you know what? But it costs a lot of money. If we've been in every spiel so far this year, and when you add it all up, sometimes and been in the money too, I think all but one spiel. But you know what? It still costs a lot of money. So
it's not just the money, but it's the rewarding camaraderie in the rings and on the sheath. I know, because the players love this sport with what I've noticed is it's a different type of love. It's very positive, very human, familial style of love. And I say that because it's not because you're being thrown into the sport. It's because you've almost been grandfathered or grandsoned into the love of the game. And to be bred with the game and to love the game from such a young age, to be around it so much, it only feels like second nature for many of these players to continue on that tradition.
So, you know what, you're absolutely right, Theo. It is, and you said familial, and it certainly to a degree is that. Sometimes somebody will come along and just, whether it's from high school curling, get started, or a friend who's curling, get started and, at a younger age. But generally there's a connection somehow to a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a family friend, a neighbor who is a curler. And it becomes a passion. And it's that passion that I think gets everybody, gets the bug, if you would, and helps them then to do all they can to be involved in this game. It's a choice then, but it's an easy one for them.
And it's a great game because you can play it as serious as you want, especially with certain tours, We've seen the viewership and the audienceship increase tremendously with, Pinty's and what they've done and given them sort of like a, for lack of a better term, a professional style of curling tour for a lot of these players to look up to should they become great curlers. But even so, it's just a great sport to just be involved and enjoy, like life on the rings, basically.
Yeah. You know what? It absolutely is. And it's nice that you mentioned some of those bigger folks that have, brought it forward, whether it was the Bats for years and all the sponsorships, the Scotties, the at a national level, and the new ones at a national level that have helped the Grand Slam grow.
Yeah.
They're really helping to put curling on the map. I mean, the television audience for a curling match is no longer fodder.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, and advertisers want to be part of it, and people want to tune in.
So it was only a male only last weekend. This weekend's a little bit different. This is a pretty important weekend. The Kyle Flett Memorial. Real quick, it's out in Petersfield, Manitoba, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Theo.
So Kyle Flett, can you touch real quick on why it was named after him, if you have a recollection to it?
Kyle was a curler, and the whole Flett family are curlers, I believe, and but Kyle specifically, a very definitely a good curler. Unfortunately, his life ended very suddenly, way too soon. And this is a way for the family, I think, to keep his memory alive and for us to reflect on, what happened and what transpired. And we get to remember his passion for the game and respect that same passion by being passionate ourselves.
So we have up in Petersfield, we have the men's, we have the women's. Full draws already expected?
Yeah, the draws are out now. We're looking at, I believe it is a full draw for men and full draw for women. There is no there's no openings. There was a waiting list, I think, to get onto the Kyle Flat. So
That's awesome. So how many teams on both sides?
I don't have that one up before me, but if I'm correct, I believe there is 8 junior men's and 8 junior women's.
Okay, perfect. So looking at the standings, I know you and I talked last week on Monday. It's the top 10 teams that get into that final championship weekend at the end of November, correct?
That's correct.
And so we've seen a little bit of swapping around in some of these positions over the last 10 days or so.
Right.
I mean, the junior men, they still have 3 teams within 12 points of each other vying for top spot. I'm pretty sure all 3 teams are going to be in this weekend in Petersfield. That's the Hikeaway, the Weeb, and the Johnson group. They're kind of running away with the front, so to speak, but there's still several events where you can collect points, right?
Yeah, there are a couple of events left to collect points. We have the points still aren't posted for Swan River yet. So that will give Johnson some points and cut that 12-point spread down to, I believe, 6 or 5. Yeah, before the top 3 teams. And I don't think that Team Ryan Weeb is curling in Petersfield this weekend. I might be wrong, but
Okay.
I don't recall seeing them on the draw. So.
But still, that's pretty impressive that those 3 teams have that many points already. And I mean,
definitely,
yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
And if you look at the women's side, I mean, the women's side has 4 teams within 5 points with each other. Like, there's going to be a lot of swapping and changing around of the old guard, so to speak, perhaps. And 5 very strong teams within 5 points, or 4 very strong teams within 5 points of each other. Davies, Bergman, we've talked to the Zacharias group and the Lukowicz group as well. And the Beaudry squad is not that far behind in 6th. So, I mean, lots up for grabs still in these last There's 2 or 3 weekends left before the final. So I mean, this is crunch time. If you want to, this is the. How important is that seeding really when it gets into that final weekend at the Assiniboine Curling Club?
Well, the seeding is important. To be honest with you, it's everything really. How you're seated determines what pool you end up in, and the higher you're seated, then you'll be seated high in your pool. So you have to play off against half the teams. There's just no two ways around that. That's essential. But you want to go in with an advantage. Every team wants to win with an advantage if they can, and be one of the top seeds.
So the top seeds potentially would be playing less games over that weekend compared to, let's say, a 9th or a 10th team?
Well, they won't be playing less games. That's the one point that becomes a point of equilibrium for everybody. The games are the same for all. They're just varied opponents. And then you recap at the end, and after the initial round is done, then the seeding can come into play. How you finished in your round, if there's ties, your initial seeding coming in may come into play. So there's many different scenarios, but the most important part is to finish hard and with as many points as you can.
Absolutely. No, that's for sure. Assiniboine Curling Club, let's touch on that real quick. November 30th to December 1st, we here at ASTV will be live with those games, helping promote the junior curlers. How exciting is it to know, maybe some of the curlers don't know that they're going to be live streamed and shown live? Are we keeping this a secret to them, or is it something where...
It's not a secret, but we're going to do a mass blitz, email blast, actually, this weekend. So everybody's going to know as of this weekend. And you know what? MJCT, Ashland Manitoba Junior Curling Tour, is eternally grateful for ASTV for helping us to get this out there and trying to put Manitoba junior curling a little higher on the map, if you would.
Well, I think it's pretty high on the map right now when you consider junior curling and the number of curlers per capita in Manitoba. We hold that stat globally as the largest population of curlers in the world, not just in Canada or United States, but when you consider the number of curlers and number of curling clubs here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, it's pretty impressive to see how many players, coaches, and families are still involved with the great sport that it is. And it's not it becomes an expensive sport, but to get into it, pair of shoes and a broom, and you get to borrow rocks and throw them as hard as you can, right, Kevin?
You're absolutely right. You know what? With some of the costs of other sports, it's being as prohibitive as it is. Curling, soccer. There are many other sports that are out there that don't cost a fortune.
Right.
And curling is such a social sport. For people who have never tried it, they don't understand the actual connection to the social element. Before the game, all the Ashland Manitoba Junior Curling Tour participants, many of them are talking with the other teams, laughing and joking and having fun. But when it comes time to get on the ice, they put their game face on and they get out there and they get it done. So,
yeah, I will say this as well, Kevin, for youngsters who could be timid somewhat to a team game. You look at hockey, whereas like 10 or 14 other players, football has, 30 to 40 extra players. A curling squad is 4, and it's a band of brotherhood, sisterhood very quickly with a small group of players. So it's not as timid, or it's not as, you don't get as anxious perhaps playing with a larger group of players. So if you're one that's likes to be, more in control of what they can do, it's 2 out of 8 rocks. Good sense of individuality with the team play as well.
That's well put, actually, Theo. I mean, the truth of the matter is, you know what, you are contributing just a piece of it, and it's not as daunting, right, as being a member of a 25 member hockey team, right?
Yeah.
And there is nobody that's sitting in the bench, even if you have a fifth player. Sometimes we have a fifth player on Team Johnson. Sometimes he's out there cheering us on, but it's still, that's part and parcel of that social opportunity that I speak to. They just want to feel part and parcel of something, right? And it's
Absolutely.
easy to do in a curling team. Yes, for sure.
For sure, Kevin. Unless you don't like getting yelled at very much, some of the girls have some pipes. Some of the guys definitely have some pipes, but it's all
Yeah.
in good fun. It's very
Yeah.
competitive at the same time. Kevin, I want to say thank you very much for joining me this morning. I'll let you get back at her, and good luck with all the teams in this upcoming Memorial Tournament in Petersfield. And we'll touch base, I'm sure, many times before we get to that final weekend in November 30th to December 1st. Here on ASTV, live in the Assiniboine Curling Club as well. Thank you very much, Kevin. This has been The Draw Weight with our man, the marketing director, Kevin Young with MJCT, Asham's MJCT. Thanks for joining me, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Theo. Have a great day.